Brad,
Yes.
how many podcasts do you subscribe to?
I mean, you really want to talk about my podcast habits?
Like, I'm just curious. Like, what is a like? I subscribe to a bunch of podcasts, but I listen to like 4 pretty religiously, and then there's a bunch more that I like dip into when it's interesting.
I am probably being needlessly pedantic here, but the answer is 0 because I don't actually subscribe. I just manually go and download episodes I want to listen to.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, my podcast behavior is completely different now that I don't commute anymore.
Well, okay, but like, let's do a thought. Imagine a world where you're having a normal commute. You're going downtown every day. You're on the bus. You have some time to burn. Do you subscribe then?
So occasionally, still was kind of catch as catch can for the most part. You're asking the wrong person for this thought experiment. I'm sorry.
Wow. Okay. So let's do a different. Pretend you're a normal podcast consumer and you hear a show that you like and you're like, oh, this Tech Pod by these Brad and Will guy. I'd like to have this on my phone whenever I want to listen to it. So I'm going to mash that subscribe button.
I love this show so much. I cannot miss an episode.
Yeah. So at any point during mashing that subscribe button, did it occur to you that you might be paying money to the podcasters by subscribing? I air quoted that for audio listeners.
But I would point out that I am under the age of 60.
Okay. Fair.
So no, that had not occurred to me.
Did you know that Apple is changing the subscribe button in the default Apple podcast app from subscribe to follow, I think?
Okay, I believe that's what I saw, yes.
Yeah. I realized I should have probably read more of the story. I just got to that far in the story and I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, we have to talk about this.
What is the number? What is this, like 49%, wasn't it? Like
47% of
like
people.
Almost half the people who consume podcasts think that they are paying when they click
that was that
was eye-opening.
If we got money on people who listen to the show, wow.
That's,
Anyway.
Do you think it's going to make any difference?
Yeah, probably.
No.
I mean, I don't know. I'm so used to apps behaving like the nice thing about phones is it's really hard to accidentally buy something. Yeah. Like it's easy to buy something intentionally, but like the phone makes you click the button or hit the home screen or whatever. And it's like, back in the old days on the PC, especially when like Amazon payments and PayPal, one click and all that stuff started, there was a little bit of concern that you could accidentally buy stuff without knowing it.
Well, how does it work with Face ID? Like I've still got a Touch ID phone. Like, is there an extra layer of confirmation because you just happen to be looking at the phone at the right angle that it reads your face and thinks that's confirmation you want to buy something? Like, what do they do there? So
when you're doing, you have to hit the power button twice. You have to you still have to hit a physical button. Like there's a physical press, so they can't. So bad software can't spoof it.
It turns out physical buttons still have their place, huh? Apple.
Look, we're 1 or maybe 2 generations away from Apple leaving only one physical button on the phone.
If that, man. At some point, it's just going to be an invisible, like, capacitive spot, right?
Well, yeah, there's no reason.
It's going to be the home spot.
Yeah, there's no reason you couldn't have. Oh boy, HomeSpot. That's a good name for a podcast. There's no reason you couldn't have a capacitive volume slider, like just slide your finger up or slide your finger down on the side of the phone to turn it up right now, except for add some cost.
I think, well, I don't know. Now that Johnny Ive is out of there, maybe the relentless drive toward minimalism is going to like chill out a little bit. What do you think?
You think it's going to look like that Google TV remote that Sony made a few years ago?
I don't think they're going to go that far in the other direction necessarily, but like maybe thinner and more svelte and, less complicated is not always the best design goal. You tell me.
You know what? From where I sit, this iPhone 12, pretty close to what I want in a phone. Like
it's pretty close, except for, there's that part where there's this little spot carved out of the screen. If they could just address that.
I don't know what you're talking. I mean, the thing that on either side of the time and the battery indicator, the places that there'd just be dead space otherwise.
Yeah, where there's the part where the screen is not uniform.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. That feels more futury to me. Like think about like Star Trek pads, right? They're not square. They're like weird rectangle shapes with curved edges. And there's sometimes a hand grip in the middle of one. Like there's all sorts of cool stuff happening there.
Even before the notch, I was, now that we have rounded corners on screens as well, like I always think about like, where do they decide where to cut through the pixels? Because like with a perfectly rectangular phone, like it's pretty obvious where the edges would be, right? But like, are some pixels just sacrificing their lives so that you can have those rounded corners?
Look, there's always going to be a dead pixel, Brad.
I guess so.
I mean, here's the thing. I can't even see. Pixel, you know what? There's still a little bit of a bezel, it looks like, around the screen, like where the curves are, because I don't see any pixels screaming up there. Like there's no pixels that are like, oh my God, my children.
They're already dead. They gave their lives so you could have those classy rounded corners.
Oh, you got my dog. Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad. I don't know how my ranking muscle is doing since last week. I think it may have atrophied a little bit.
I had immediate regrets.
Uh-oh.
About leaving this at 15.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a coward's move in retrospect.
All right. I like where this is going.
I think we chickened out. I think we should bring it down to 1. Just
wait,
1.
What?
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
10. I'm not a madman.
Be here all night.
Yeah. What's the single most important PC building improvement over the last 25 years?
I mean, not to give away the game here, but it's probably USB, right? As much as I have.
I mean, look.
Endless problems with USB.
It's not a perfect technology by any means. Let's not get it. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yes. Cart before the horse here.
Let's run down the list just for the people who may download their podcast manually and not know what the current episode is.
Before we get into that, am I to understand that you don't have to opt into tracking changes in Google Docs?
No, it just happens.
That's an opt-out feature?
That is an opt-out. I don't even know if you can turn it off. The whole point of this is that like all of your shit is always there.
I don't know how I feel about that. I assumed that was something you had to enable.
Look, the secret is if you make a new copy, you duplicate the document. If you don't want people to see your changes when you send them a Google Doc, you make a new copy and upload it as a doc file.
Fair. That's ASCII text. Plain old, what do you call it? UTF-8. It still has its place.
Is it UTF-8? I guess that is. That's the Unicode thing, right?
Yes, I think that's right.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, though, now that I'm clicking through these previous versions of this list, let's say if you were to start with a long list of things and try to winnow that down to a much shorter list of things. This little history feature here is a pretty handy way to see where you have been and where you might be going.
Do you think this would have changed the outcome of any other rankings you've done in the past? Like if you had this technology at your hands?
Maybe. I could tell you that cheap overnight shipping was at one point number 13 on this list.
Well, it was still unordered. This is an unordered list at this point.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yes. Well, mostly.
I still think cheap overnight shipping is pretty important, but I don't think it's better than, say, a headlamp.
Yeah, sure. I do think that's a little outside the scope of what we're doing here. No, the shipping.
Oh, what about track changes? How do you feel like that fits on this list?
Better off without it. I think, I don't know. I think external logistical factors maybe.
Okay.
Things that you can't at least put your hands on and manipulate yourself, I feel like don't really.
Look, the argument for cheap overnight shipping is that it gives you just a little bit more comfort. And it's a feeling of safety that if you mess something up, you're one FedEx truck away from repair the next day.
That's fair.
From unfucking your mistake.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. But if I've learned anything in my years of list making, you got to draw the line somewhere.
I mean, that's the unfortunate reality of a list.
That's right.
I mean, there are infinite lists.
I was going to say, if we're prepared to engage with an infinite list, then we might be able to make that happen.
We could make a list of lists. I mean, we're on the track for that now. We have 2 lists right now that we've done.
We got to be careful.
Look,
I don't think that's the first time that list of lists has come up on this podcast. And in fact,
my favorite is list
of lists.
List of lists is way better than list of lists. But list of lists is the best list of all.
Oh boy, that's okay. The more
can
recursion.
We rank list of lists next week?
Oh my God, we can't do this.
Okay, so the story so far.
Oh God, I started to get into something. I was reading about the GNU herd this week.
I'm sorry, what?
As one does.
You mean the new herd?
The
The G is silent.
Are you sure about that?
Nope, not at all.
I'm pretty sure. I was under the impression most people pronounce the G. Anyway, whatever. I don't even want to get into it. HURD, HURD, is a nested, mutually recursive acronym.
Okay.
It recurses forever. Because one acronym contains the other. I really shouldn't.
What is the acronym for HURD?
Let me see. It's okay. So it's spelled HURD. I can't believe I'm even reading this. HURD stands for HIRD, HIRD, of Unix replacing daemons. And then HIRD stands for HURD, HURD, of interfaces representing depth.
I hate this a lot.
Yes, I know. Like I said, I should not have brought it up. There's probably a reason they never finished it.
I'm going to play how to pronounce GNU right now.
Okay. Wait.
Okay.
Can I also play?
It just says new on howtopronounce.com/new, GNU. But when you go to the GNU.org, the new foundation, the Free Software Foundation, it says do a hard G, but with the letter N instead of R. Like pronounce it like GRU, but with the letter N instead of R.
It is pronounced as one syllable with a hard G, yes.
So I'm going to say, if we're going to follow this rule for the GNU project, then that means we have to follow if we're honoring creator's intent versus using the word that already exists in the English language, which means a type of like cloven hooved deer, I believe, is a GNU.
I believe that's right.
Then that means we're going to have to follow the author's intent for the GIF, the graphics interchange format.
Oh yeah, the graphics with a hard G. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Go on.
But he pronounced it GIF is the problem.
Are you sure?
100%.
Is that actually true? Is that really true?
New York Times tracked the creator of the GIF down a few years ago.
Look, sometimes creations grow beyond their creators, okay?
Look, no, I'm just saying the style for the podcast has to be consistent. Either we honor authorial intent, in this case, Richard Stallman of the GNU Foundation.
Well, extra no then.
Yeah, okay, so then it's new. Move on.
Okay. Well, then it's GIF, so it's GIF then.
I mean, that's fine. I'll take the L on that to get the W on the other one.
Have I ever made my pitch about
probably?
GIF?
No.
Dude, what about poor, lowly, humble JIF? Because that's also a file format.
The peanut butter?
What about .jif? What is the
hell is that?
I have no idea, but it exists. What the hell is a .gif going to do if everybody pronounces .gif like .gif?
If nobody uses it, does it matter?
You never know.
No.
You never know. Hang on. .gif. You're right. That just does take me straight to the peanut butter. What is a .jif file and how do I open it? JPEG interchange format image. Apparently.
That's not a real thing.
Apparently.
Not a real thing.
That's what this says. I don't know. Anyway, we should rank. We should probably rank.
Okay, what's our list so far?
Oh boy. Okay.
The category, once again, if you're keeping track at home and 20 minutes into the show you don't remember already, is improvements to PC building technology.
Yes.
Since we started building PCs in the 90s.
Yes. Developments in the building and operation of computers that have made our lives much easier. And
just the building, not the operation.
By operation, I mean like setting up a BIOS. Like, after you put everything together and press the power button, there's still work to do before you can actually use the computer. Okay. You know what I mean.
But Windows Update's not on here. Oh, no, actually it is. It's still on here.
Yes. Or if you want to look at it another way, things that allow us to cut our hands less.
Fewer bloody fingers while building a new computer is always welcome by me.
Yeah, for sure.
I've cut myself a lot.
Yes, I've been there. All right. Top to bottom, modular power supplies.
These are in no particular order.
Yes. Build-friendly cases, USB, quiet operation. We've got to rephrase this. Everything but the computer. That sounds like nothing.
That's the one that's like the fact that you have a phone that you can use to look up shit if your computer is broken while you're trying to build a new computer.
Yes, I am probably going to argue strongly that doesn't belong on here for formal reasons. We'll get there. Okay. Being able to plug your PC into your TV, I believe that. I'm just going to type HDMI in parentheses here because that's really what that is. SATA.
Okay. Yeah.
So this isn't all just acronyms. I'm going to expand that out to Serial ATA. Remember that? PCI Express. The modern BIOS.
The Peripheral Connect Interface Express Edition?
Yes, that's the one. The modern BIOS, or a basic input-output system.
Also, kind of that's UEFI also, really, because we're talking about like,
yes.
Yeah.
That's
UEFI.
That is the BIOS as it has evolved, support for more input devices and networking and backing up firmware and all that stuff. Bootable USB OS installers. Troubleshooting features that are placed directly on the motherboard.
Like little screens with error codes, lights that tell you whether your RAM's good, stuff like that.
Diagnostic lights. And how about a power switch right there on the motherboard so you don't have to like set it up right next to the case and run the lead? Well, actually, you could just bridge it with a screwdriver.
I just use a screwdriver.
It took me way too long to do that. It's not that I didn't know about it. It was just that like I didn't want to risk anything.
There's no downside.
Yeah,
there's nothing around there that you can fuck up usually.
The last time I needed to boot a bare motherboard, I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just going to try it. And I tried it and I was like, man, why didn't I do that for the last 20 years?
In the Maximum PC lab, Gordon used to sometimes lick his fingernail and then hit it with that.
There's a certain panache to that.
Yeah, it was cool, but also gross. So,
yes, that is. I would not want to, touch that. Ugh. Let's see. Troubleshooting features on motherboard. Easy driver installation and updates. Some of these sound like they overlap. We'll have to revisit some of this. Not having to activate Windows to install it. Consolidation of external cards, or I guess we should say external hardware onto the motherboard, such as Ethernet, Wi-Fi, sound, and graphics.
Realistically, you can build a computer that has nothing plugged into any of the slots, and it's fine.
Yeah. It just goes.
Shocking.
And headlamps.
Best thing on the list.
I should buy a headlamp. I don't know that it belongs on this list.
It's because you don't own a headlamp.
That's entirely possible.
I was disappointed that the headlamp stands weren't out in the Discord after this list came out last week.
Yeah, I didn't see that much, actually.
It was shocking. Gotta get these people some headlamps.
I would say, I'm trying to think. I'm thinking over since last week what has inspired the most discussion. I think it's got to be video stuff. I think it's got to be video standards, video cables.
Yeah, people were really people hate DisplayPort and love DVI.
Yes, they hate HDMI as well.
But also some people hated DVI because of the shittiness of the mechanical connector.
Yes, that did come up. But
like it is really the worst connector I think ever. Like if I was rating based on just usability, it is maybe the worst of all time. I've killed so many DisplayPort cables.
Damn. Yeah, I can see it. But what I really got from that discussion was that people want a dumb video signal.
I mean,
they don't want a smart. They don't want a smart video signal. They don't want a thing that has to handshake. Nope. That sends all kinds of like codes that you don't want, that causes undesirable behavior. It's bad.
Do you leave the monitors in your speaker, the speakers in your monitors on?
Yes.
I usually turn them off almost immediately in the BIOS.
The monitors maybe it's questionable. The speakers. I really should. I've actually wondered about this for a long time, and I'm embarrassed having to ask it because I feel like I should know it. But how much electricity, if any, are speakers using if there's no sound coming out?
None.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Well, there's a DAC in there. There's a DAC that's connecting, so maybe a little tiny bit, but not much.
I guess let me walk that back to like traditional stereo speakers that just plug into an amp. Like those are used. Those are doing nothing, right?
Well, the amp is drawing current probably to turn on the light and all the electronic stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I've got a little subwoofer on these PC speakers. I guess that does use some current.
Yeah. That uses a little bit. You should put those in the power strip that you turn off at the end of the night.
Probably turn those off more often. And the monitors, I actually looked it up. I think these use like 1.5 watts in sleep or in kind of suspend.
That's kind of a lot for a monitor, actually.
You're right. It's about a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah. I should start turning my monitors off at night. I didn't realize they use that much. That's a lot.
I probably should too.
I might go back to the power strip and put everything on one power strip so I can just hit because I turn off my computers at night just not to waste a lot of electricity, and having everything shut off would maybe be good. I don't know.
What about the NAS? That stays on 24/7.
NAS stays on 24/7. The NAS, this is like, the net. That's the big power expend. I should put a panel up on the roof just for the NAS.
I really need to resist the urge to go back into previous versions and see what we've cut, because I feel like maybe a third of the ones I just read need to go. Of course, if we cut a third, we have our 10, right?
Yeah.
so maybe not. But anyway, maybe I'll dig back into the previous stuff if necessary. But
yeah, you have it there. You have the power. I look. I'm looking at this list. I don't see anything super obvious to cut. Like bootable USB. I mean, we could do it. We could pull a few. Maybe we pick one or two that are must-haves.
Yeah, you know what I would say is like some of these I feel like there's a little too much overlap.
Okay, that's a good place to start.
Like for instance, I think like a bootable OS installer on a USB stick is pretty close to easy driver installation and updates in that they both pertain to installing your operating system.
So like combine that into one category that's like installing the OS is easy.
Yeah.
Avoiding OS install pitfalls.
That feels cowardly though.
Look, we're cutting 5 more things. What more do people want?
Also, I think I made this case last week. I feel very strongly that the modern, like the ability to just make a bootable OS installer on a USB stick is enormous. Like
that's true.
We've talked about it before. Like remember having to keep up with your DOS disks? Your stack of floppy disks to put DOS 622 back on?
Yeah, like I literally had a special place under my keyboard for my Windows 95 disk because I had to install Windows 95 so often.
Right, and if you lost that thing, what were you going to do? You
go out. I was completely hosed.
Go out. You couldn't even burn CDs. Like you had to go out and buy another copy.
Well, I could burn CDs, but like you couldn't download. You had to download a sketchy pirate version,
right? Or find somebody you knew that had a copy or something.
Yeah.
Like not having to keep up with an OS installer anymore is so huge to me.
But also at the same time, like I haven't reinstalled Windows in probably 4 years.
Wow. That's a hell of a run.
It doesn't like there's no downside anymore.
It does not cruft up like it used to.
Yeah, they finally fixed that.
Occasionally it'll still go a little sideways in a way that only a reinstall can fix.
I mean, that's true. Okay. I feel like that's definitely important. I feel like that's definitely on the final list. Like the whole because like when I was at Maximum PC, the biggest question, the most common question we got was always, hey, I built this new computer, I installed Windows, and now it crashes all the time. And when you emailed them and were like, hey, maybe install the chipset drivers, that almost always fixed the problem. Like it was either that or their room was too hot. Like the other one we got a lot was like we'd get letters around end of summer when it was August and people's like computer rooms and rec rooms and stuff would start getting warm and their computers would start crashing because it was 85 in there instead of 75. And that was
enough to do it.
Sometimes, but it was a different time back then too.
Sure.
The hardware failed less gracefully then.
Sure. And cooling was not as good.
Cooling definitely not as good. So yeah, let's combine. Let's like a set, like first boot maybe is easier. I don't know. I mean, honestly, we could combine not having to activate Windows into like install is easy as well.
Yeah.
I guess maybe 3/5 of the way there. 2/5 of the way there.
Bootable USB installers, easy driver updates and installation, and not having to activate Windows to install it are all basically kind of the same thing.
I'm going to suggest that we roll headlamps into that too, because it makes it easier to find the pins to do the BIOS reset and stuff.
We really are only going to have one item left at the end of this thing. Maybe the coward's way out is the right choice here and just reduce this to, I don't know, ease of OS install.
Look, this is a fallacious choice, but if I was choosing between bootable OS installers and easy driver installation / updates, having had to use the F6 driver a lot over the years, I'd probably pick the easy driver installation updates over the bootable USB installer.
My problem with those is that they're always enough to get you up and running, but they're never the ones that I actually want. Like I don't ever want the default Microsoft drivers. Like I'm always still going to go hunt down the manufacturer's ones because those are probably better or newer or both.
The Microsoft ones are usually better tested.
Maybe. Maybe I'm thinking about the graphics card a little too much. Like you're going to get a nice fallback actual driver for your video card and not just the generic VGA driver these days. But that's never the one you want to settle on. That's just enough to get you onto a nice high-res desktop.
So for me, the easy driver installation updates and built into Windows Update, which just to be clear, has been around since like Windows XP. It's old at this point. Is about the drivers that people don't think to do. So for example, everybody gets you spend $600 on a video card. You probably know you have to install the video card drivers, right? But most people don't know about things like chipset drivers and Bluetooth stack and all of the weird shit that's built into your motherboard that you don't think to update. And that will get you to a place that will work and be good versus being janky and unreliable. It's less of an issue now because the chipsets don't change as much as they used to either. So maybe the answer is, maybe it is bootable USB installers.
Yeah.
Sorry, drivers.
When I bought that USB to serial cable last year, was there a driver built into Windows for it? No.
Did you download it, or did you have to install it from a website someplace?
I had to go download a .inf file. Remember those?
Oh yeah,
and
I had to do that for my foot pedals.
Huh? Interesting.
I'm gonna put these down at the bottom of the list, the ones that we're cutting,
that's
just
fine.
in case.
I'm gonna put a space.
Okay, that's fair. I think Quiet Components maybe doesn't live on this list.
Really?
Yeah, because that's the thing that's nice after the computer's built, but it's not really good while you're building the computer.
You're right.
It's often worse while you're building the computer, actually.
You think?
I think we put this on the list before we really fully understood exactly what we were doing here. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, that's kind of the nature of every ranked list.
I mean, that's true. One moment you're talking about how awesome Skyrim is, and the next moment Saints Row the Third is the game of the year. Who knew how that happened?
It doesn't. It didn't, in fact. I don't know. Don't know what you're talking about. Man, I do love quiet fans, though. Holy shit.
I mean, they're really good.
Oh, man, I love how quiet computers are.
But you know what's quiet when the power is not turned on while you're building a computer? Any fan.
Yeah, it's true.
Even the Vortex.
Yeah, that's true.
I used to have a fan that could move 120 cubic feet of air per minute or something insane. It was like 3 fans, 3 normal fan thicknesses. And it had really, really sharp blades.
That sounds terrifying.
And it looked I feel like if I had put it on a tube, I could have balanced a ping pong ball on top of that airflow pretty easily.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I guess better, quieter cooling kind of tracks with everything else about computers in that all of it has gotten better. Like that's just kind of like, there's more design attention, there's more quality assurance, there's more all that stuff. It's not the what is the term for the type of metal they used to build the interior of the cases out of? Stamped?
Oh, stamped aluminum, die-cut aluminum,
right,
usually.
People are paying more attention to they're using friendlier materials and everything about the luxury aspect of PCs has got better. So
cable channels, all that stuff that's built in automatically.
In that sense, I mean, this is getting more and more cowardly the longer we do it, but I feel like we could kind of massage the name of build-friendly cases to include things like better fans.
I strongly disagree with that. I think I think build-friendly cases is a specific concept that was well thought out.
You're right.
And look, if this was things that I like better about PCs now, I would absolutely do quiet components.
Yes,
right? Like
sure.
Quiet components have been a quality of life improvement on personal computing over the last 20 years, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But during the build process,
yeah, you're right.
Like having to figure out which way is up on the pump apparatus for your all-in-one water cooler, it's just a hassle. I don't need that. It's not making the build easier.
That's why I think I've decided I will never deal with water cooling.
Well, the all-in-ones are super easy.
I know.
Honestly, my next move is to do a full water cooling loop with the GPU and everything, I think.
See, now you're just adding complexity.
But I want it to be quiet, Brad.
That's good. Air cooling is also quiet. You know what's easier than an all-in-one?
Yeah.
A fan.
But fans fan. Look, you want to know the secret dream? The secret dream is to put a radiator, to have 2 loops, right? Mm-hmm. One that goes to a radiator like normal, and then a second one that goes to a radiator with some submersible fans, or maybe just pumps that blow air over a series of cooling fins that I can put in a 5-gallon drywall mud bucket full of water next to the computer, and have that water serve as a heat sink, so that when it gets boiling, I just flip the cutoffs on the water cooling loop, go dump the water down the tub, fill up with a fresh thing of cold water, and I'm back in business.
It's really trying to reduce complexity here.
Look, I've been playing a lot of eco, so I'm really tuned in on the environment and what's good and bad for us. So I'm just trying to reduce waste heat, Brad.
I respect it.
Yeah.
All right, I deleted the quiet whatever.
Should we talk about the elephant?
What's the elephant?
Everything but the computer.
Oh, yeah, let's rename that. How about ready access to reference materials?
What about we all have 2 computers?
Okay, I like that. How about having more than one computer?
Yeah.
Where definition of computer is anything that connects to the internet.
Anything that computes. Yeah.
Anything that can get you the motherboard manual for the motherboard that you can't get to boot, right?
Yeah. Look, your fucking microwave oven probably has more computing power than your computer did in 1995 at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, like, you've seen the semiconductor shortage is mothballing car factories.
Yeah.
Like they can't make the cars because they can't get the chips that they need to finish the cars.
We should go back to 50s style cars with carburetors and all mechanical stuff. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds better to me. Having more than one computer so that the only computer that you would have to look up solutions is the one that is in pieces in front of you. That's no longer a reality.
Yes. So you don't have to disassemble the computer you just built, put the hard drive back in the old computer,
right,
and look stuff up on the internet. Which is absolutely a thing I did multiple times.
Yeah, totally. And like there's a lot of stuff that goes into that, like Wi-Fi is a big part of that now, right? Because now you can just whip out a laptop or a phone. Like in the past, like, think about that. Like your connectivity to the internet was limited by how many network ports you had to plug into.
Oh yeah. I used to have I used to use a Windows 2000 machine as the router using internet connection sharing.
Right. Like
that was a bad idea, just for the record. Terrible. Yeah. Can we talk about PCI Express?
Sure.
I don't know if it hangs here.
Wow. Like at all in the top 10?
I don't think it's in the top 10.
I guess I could see it.
It's just another slot. It's nice.
Yeah, you're right.
It's nice that it's fast. It's nice you can get external variants. It's nice you can pipe it over USB or Thunderbolt. Those are all good things.
I'm trying to look up when PCI Express debuted because I have to assume that it is by far the longest lived slot at this point, right? It's been around for like 2003 was when the first version of PCI Express came out. That's pretty impressive considering, like, first of all, did you pronounce it ISA?
ISA. Okay. Yes, how we always. We didn't. ISA was done by the time I started at Maximum PC, so I don't know how they pronounced it.
Okay.
It was all PCI and AGP for the most part at that point.
Because it was. Or
AGP came out while I was there.
It was ISA and then Visa Local Bus and then AGP and then PCI and then PCI Express all in the space of like 10 years.
VL Bus is what we called Visa Local.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then PCI Express happened and it's just been that since then. Although it's been versions of that. So it's not like there aren't still changes in standard that you have to kind of keep up with.
Well, but the physical connector is essentially the same. Yeah, it's not like they've added more connectors or anything.
Backwards, forwards compatibility is certainly nice. I did mention, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the thing that they did that was smart was they just were like, hey, we're going to move the North Bridge on this chipset, which was like where all the kind of connection between memory and CPU and graphics card and all that stuff lived into the CPU. And then we're going to give you this slot that gives you direct access to that bus. And that was really smart. The big problem with PCIe now is that with the addition of all the stuff that connects to it with like M2 slots and NVMe drives and all that stuff, and increasing demand for more slots, it's kind of challenging setting that stuff up again. Like it's made something that was easy and made it hard.
That's what I was starting to hint at last week that we didn't fully get into was like having to know how many lanes are attached to each slot and which slots cancel each other out. And like the M.2 socket is the one I think that really pushes this over into like problematic territory. Because again, who, unless you're really into this stuff, who knows that sticking an NVMe drive into that socket is going to disable one of the slots for expansion cards that you have? Like you kind of, unless you know that, you sort of have to go digging into the motherboard manual to even like figure that out, right?
Well, and it's led to an increase in back of the box bullshit from the motherboard manufacturers where like, look, you have 5 PCI Express slots and 5 M2 slots. But what they don't say is that when you plug into those M2 slots, you decrease the number of PCI Express slots you have by 1 each time.
A lot of those are mutually exclusive. And like, I'm sure it's a hard problem to solve. Like you can only have so many traces in your motherboard.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like they have to kind of use that same bus, but like it is still confusing for the end user.
Well, that's not about traces in the motherboard. It's about, this is one of the reasons that like the more expensive Intel CPUs are sometimes worth it. This is one of the advantages AMD has.
Right, it's more of a controller thing, right? Like
it's built into the CPU.
Right, like the routing to the CPU is the limiting factor, right?
No. The CPU is the limiting factor. So like a higher end CPU will have 24 lanes available or 48 lanes available, and the i3 version of that same chipset will have like 16 lanes available or something ridiculous.
Right. Okay. Yes.
This is the side effect of moving the North Bridge into the CPU, essentially. Right.
Yes. Now I remember like the little bit of reading I've done about stuff like Threadripper is that you get an absolutely absurd number of PCIe lanes along with that.
Yeah. And that like I didn't have problems with that until fairly recently. But when I had like a PCI Express SSD, one of the early pre M2 slot ones, and then also an M2 slot SSD, and also a video card that would eat 16 lanes, and also a capture card that eats a lane, and also a Vive wireless thing that eats a lane, I was like running into situations where I had slots that didn't work. And that's an edge case, but also it's stupid that we don't have enough PCI Express slots lanes on the CPUs for 5 motherboard slots and a M2 or 2.
Do you think there's any physical or technological limitation at work there, or is that just like Intel deciding this is how many this one's going to have because we need to drive people to buy the next most expensive model?
It's entirely possible that it decreases the yield to have more lanes.
Okay.
And that's why they differentiate with it. But it's also equally possible as a marketing choice.
Okay.
I mean, and realistically, most people, especially if you're not putting a video card that's going to eat 16 lanes in, won't have this problem.
Dude, it is crazy how fast I went from years and years of having nothing but a graphics card in my computer as far as expansion cards go to like the second this work from home thing kicked in.
Yep.
Like I instantly don't have enough PCIe slots. It's like I've got the graphics card. Now I put a USB expansion card in. Now I've got a capture card in there.
Why'd you do a USB expansion instead of just a hub outside?
I don't know. Felt like it.
Okay.
I have a hub. But honestly, I mean, it was enough devices. It was seeing enough devices saying like, hey, this should get a dedicated USB port. Like,
got it.
I just wanted to err on the side of caution of having enough ports connected directly to the bus.
Look, if you don't spend that CapEx, it'll go away too.
Well, that was part of it. Well, it was $25. Yeah. Like it's got 7 ports on it. It was a $25 card. It has 7 like decent USB cards are nothing these days.
So much money.
But I'm trying to think what I saw. I want to say like maybe the Stream Deck says it needs its own port.
Stream Deck needs its own port for power, not because of
maybe that's what it is. I'm trying to think. Like I was having interference issues with my USB mic.
Plugging a USB mic directly into the motherboard seems wise.
So
or an audio interface.
Right. So anyway, and this card I got plugs into the power supply, so it's able to pump the full juice to each port. Anyway, okay. I'm digressing here, but like. Then I started looking at 10 gigabit network cards, you know? It's like suddenly this like middle of the road motherboard I have doesn't have enough slots for all the stuff I want to put in it.
This is why you need to get the Pro Ultra Gamer Edition.
I guess I'm getting the racing stripes one next time.
Yeah, get some lights, get some ground effects.
Yeah. So I see you have already deleted PCI Express from this list. I think I'm fine with that. You're right. It is just the next slot.
Look, it's nice to not have 3 different kinds of slots on a motherboard, but also we're fine.
Again, though, like you run into, 1X, 4X, 8X. It's like, oh, I thought that capture card I bought was a 1X. No, it's actually a 4X. Like maybe I don't have a slot available for that anymore. You know what I mean? Well, talking about the physical width of the connector.
Well, so the nice thing is you can plug a 1X into like a 16X, a 1X card into a 16X slot. You just can't go the other way.
Yeah, you can't go the other way. That's the yes.
Yeah. So we're down to 12 items left.
Okay. Should we start marking ones that we think cannot go?
Yeah, I feel like modular PSUs are on that list.
Yes, I feel like the modular power supply has to stay.
Build-friendly cases are on that list.
Yes, for sure. Probably USB.
I don't know about that one yet. Let's talk about that.
All right. Okay. I thought you were.
I think being able to plug your PC into your TV is probably on that list.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal.
Although that might be more for troubleshooting than for like building.
Well, that's kind of the name of the game here, right? Like it's when things go wrong, what makes it easier to solve the problem?
I mean, we could bundle having more than one computer and being able to plug your PC into your TV into troubleshooting got easy. Well, we can circle back.
Yeah.
Serial ATA, I think that's a stone cold lock. I mean, those fat ribbon cables were awful.
Yeah, you're right. I think I would feel more strongly about it if I hadn't gone to rounded IDE cables for the last 2-3 years. I decided to throw caution to the wind and say, screw it, just cut them up and stick them in that tube. I don't care.
But think of how spectacularly stupid taking a parallel ribbon connector that is a 2.5 inch wide physical connector.
Mm-hmm.
And the solution to this problem isn't, let's make a cable standard that is sane, which is what they ended up doing, but is let's just make the ribbon round so that it has these big, weird, lumpy bits in the middle of the 3-port cable.
Those were the same cables, right? They were just.
I mean, eventually they just made them with no. It's not like the ribbon, the rounded cables. Yes, started out with some maniac with an X-Acto knife and a really good vision, cutting between all of those wires.
Well, it's the same pinout, is what I mean. The same cable standard. It was just they were. I want to say I looked it up at one point, and it's I could be wrong about this. What is that? 40 IDE was 40
or 48 or something like that. Yeah,
40 something. Anyway, I want to say it was data ground, something like it was an alternating. There's a lot of signal interference kind of arrangement in that cable design that you were basically nullifying when you made them rounded. When you bundled all those wires together, you were sort of defeating the purpose of that design.
No difference in performance.
I'd never, out of at least 2-3 years of using rounded IDE, I never had any noticeable data corruption.
So here's my question is, I don't understand why anybody didn't make a cable that was a ribbon between the two short ends, because if you think about it, the way you put old hard drives in a case, they all have the port facing the same direction. They're in line with each other because their position on the drive is part of the spec. So you can just go straight up the side. The ribbon cable is not a downside there. The ribbon cable is only a problem from the middle PC on the chain back to the motherboard.
Sure.
And honestly, when I look at what Voodoo was the one famously, they hired an origami expert to help them figure out cable layout using ribbon cables.
Oh my gosh.
And it was amazing. It was gorgeous. The cables were perfectly folded over at a 45 degree angle. And it was lovely.
That's absurd. I am
$4,000.
I'm Googling origami IDE cable now. There are absolutely pictures out there.
They told us about that during an interview with one of their makers, one of their PC builders once. And we immediately I was I want to talk to the origami guy because this is art in PC building.
When you put it that way, I think Serial ATA is a pretty strong contender.
I mean, but at the same time, Serial ATA still kind of stiff and hard to route. They're just smaller, so you got to get them out of the way.
They're not great.
That connector is garbage.
Yeah, it's also not great. The number of ones that I have. So do you have more of the ones with or without the metal latch?
Almost all ship with the metal latch now.
Really? I've got several. Go ahead.
It may be based on the motherboard because ASUS always shipped the ones with the metal latch, and I bought ASUS boards for a long time.
Or maybe there are just drives shipping without the locking mechanism now, but I've got some with the metal latch that don't actually latch. They just pull right off. And
that's
I don't
bad.
know if that's Anyway, we mentioned this last week, but you're also getting rid of the 4-pin Molex with
that's true
SATA, and I feel like that pushes it into pretty firm territory here.
I mean, the thing is, though, that connector, if we want to talk about it, they replaced a rock solid, really hard to mess up connector with one that. Have you ever broken a SATA connector off?
Once.
Yeah. How'd that feel?
A year ago, and it felt horrible because I was I've been doing this for most of my natural life. What the Granted, this was a $25 SSD. It was a very cheap. It was a 20. Yeah, it was
Did it deserve to die, Brad?
No, I had never used it.
Yeah,
it was brand new. I stuck that thing on there and it felt like it just melted off.
Did you send it back and we're like, hey, I think the SATA connector is broken on this one. You should send me a new one.
I'd rather not say.
Okay. I think SATA. I don't know. I think SATA's maybe in the maybe list for me. It's pretty good, but it's not great.
I think it's compared to the alternative, what it was replacing.
Okay. I think modern BIOS stays. Backup firmware alone is worth pushing that in.
Yeah, I've never needed that. I've never really had
I've used it a couple of times.
Really?
Yeah.
And to be clear, we're not talking about last known good configuration, right? We're talking about literal last good flash, right?
2 separate ROMs on the board, and if one fails, it boots over to the other one.
Yes, like that's what we're talking about. You've got a fallback option if your flash goes bad,
or if you like, you do a BIOS update and the power goes out midway through, something beyond your kid comes in and hits the power button, whatever.
That can happen.
Yeah, I think that's a yes. I think that one's probably a pretty. I'm not going to lock it, but that's a strong yes for me.
You really seemed averse to the network download firmware update.
That's insane.
I mean, of course, pulling it right from the manufacturer. How is that?
It's just an extra point of failure in a system where you don't need to add extra points of failure. And also,
it's going to do like a CRC check or something once it gets the file down before it actually flashes, right? Surely.
Look, yes, I'm sure they do.
Surely.
Do you need to add that risk to your life? Probably not.
Probably not. Like I said, I didn't actually use it.
Of course, I do have to say, in confession mode, I spend an unfortunate amount of time with every motherboard I get that supports it, figuring out how to replace the manufacturer logo with like my own stupid picture on the BIOS boot up screen.
Wait, you still do that? Is that still possible?
Love that shit.
Is that still possible? Are you just hex editing something?
No, well, I mean, you can do it that way if you're really fucking crazy, but since they're signed, I don't think you can do that anymore. The way, if you have an AMI BIOS, then there's a utility you can download from their site, or some motherboard manufacturers provide it. Like the Gigabyte provides it in a bad GUI, and you can, but like they don't tell you what resolution you should make the image and what file format, so it has to be a BMP, a BIMP. That's like that you. Let me think. You make it, you set it up so that it skews, so it stretches horizontally from like 640 by 480 to 800 by 600 or something like that. And then it just works.
What?
It's tricky. It took a lot of trial and error, which involved a lot of BIOS flashing after doing questionable things to the BIOS, because you have to embed the picture in the BIOS.
I have got to know what picture you're putting in there.
It's it's the foo icon from Steam.
Okay,
like that's a little rounded edges.
That's just a picture of my head on
that's
respectable. I was really hoping it was going to be some like late 90s like Homer Simpson clip art or something.
Anime. It's an animated GIF of Homer melting through the fence.
You know what I miss? This is excuse me. This is going to be the most old man shit perhaps ever on this podcast. I missed the
audio themes.
No, I missed the full post. I missed the full black screen with full of white text of like, watching the memory count up as it tests it and getting the processor frequency readouts and like all the drives that are connected, like the whole thing.
You can get that.
My PC, my gaming PC does not have that as far as I can tell.
Oh, it does. You just got to turn off quick boot.
Looked. I've tried every option. I assume that's a UEFI thing because isn't one of the big advantages of UEFI is that it doesn't have to like test and activate every single thing in the system right at boot.
Quick boot is on by default, but like my Gigabyte board, you can turn quick boot off. That might be an overclocking motherboard thing when I think about it.
Yeah, I've disabled. I've done every option you could tweak to try to bring that back, and I don't have it. Yeah, I don't know.
Weird.
That is computers to me. That is building computers, and to not have that just feels like something is missing. I think we should get rid of troubleshooting features directly on the motherboard because, like I said, a lot of motherboards don't have that anymore. And you mentioned that thing about some of them putting it on the back panel where you hit it accidentally. I think
that is a minus. But like having the number of times that code being on the screen that tells you exactly what failed during the boot up process has been really, really invaluable because it gives you something like you search for the motherboard model, the name, and then the BIOS version and that code, and it takes you exactly to a forum post that tells you how to fix your problem. But that's probably more of a later on in the PC's life than maybe a initial boot up thing.
Probably. I mean, it could be useful at the build time. Again, though, I would just say that sounds amazing, and I wish I had that.
When I was at Maximum PC one afternoon, we soldered a bunch of little momentary switches that we may have harvested out of old cases onto pin headers, and then we just dropped those over, so we didn't need the power button. This is before they had power buttons on the motherboard. And one day, I think it was somebody from AMD or ATI maybe at the time was like, "Hey, what is that?" And we were like, "Oh, it's a power button." We just, when you're working on a computer on a bench, you just do this. You don't have to do the screwdriver or the fingernail lick thing. But yeah, I don't know. I'm okay cutting that. We can cut that. That's fine.
Yeah. Again, I feel like that should be on everything.
There's other better stuff on this list.
That should not be a luxury high-end model feature. That should be on everything.
Well, I mean, those little screens, the 8-panel display adds 1/10 of a cent to each computer, each motherboard they make. So it's outside the realm of possibility.
Somebody's got to pay for that.
Yeah, we got to cut one more thing, Brad.
Yeah.
Why did you put the cursor on headlamps when I said that, Brad?
I'm just idly moving the cursor up and down. I still don't feel like headlamps just is in the scope of this thing, but
what would you have some sort of magical light on a boom arm that you can place wherever you need to get in there so you can see exactly? Because I still don't have a headlamp, I will anything from dragging a lamp across the room to waiting until that nice perfect time of afternoon when the sun is coming right through the windows. But I'm gonna, let's see. I'm looking at this list to see if there's anything else I would cut before headlamps. Not having to activate Windows to install it is pretty good.
Yeah,
that was a pretty limited time problem, though. I feel like.
Yeah, that just feels like kind of I don't know. It's kind of a minor change, right? In the grand scheme of things.
You say that, but when you're waiting on hold for 30 minutes at 2:00 in the morning to talk to the guy who give you the 30-digit magic code that makes your computer work.
I'm still not clear why I never had to do that.
Probably you never had OS R2 because you bought the retail Windows.
I definitely did not. I definitely had like day one copies of Windows back then.
Yeah, I think Windows 98 did it automatically.
Okay.
It would dial up and everything, but I'm not sure. I think it dialed an 800 number.
And once we got into the era of the product key being tied to your hardware, I've never hit that point where it was like, well, your computer's changed so much, this is no longer valid.
That's only been since like Windows 8, I think, or maybe Vista.
That's always been seamless.
Windows 7 probably
as well. So
I always forget about Windows 7.
Didn't some podcast name Windows 7 the best Windows ever?
It's a really good Windows. I'm just saying, it's like you remember the bad one and then you remember the next bad one, but you don't remember the good one that was between those two.
That's right. That's how it always works. Things that just quietly do their jobs without complaint just get overlooked.
What about consolidation of external cards onto the motherboard?
I think that's huge. I think that's like, that dovetails with like number of slots in your system and stuff like that. But like, think about how much time and effort you put into your sound card back in the day.
Yeah.
Think about having to buy a network card.
Yeah, that 3Com card I bought was really expensive.
Think about what a pain in the ass it would be if you had to deal with a discrete network card and sound card every time you built a computer.
I'd probably just move them from the old PC to the new one all the time.
Yeah, but like, you still have to manually put those cards in. That's still clutter in your case. That's what I mean. Is like, it's saving you hassle on configuration. It's saving space in the case and like making it look tidier. It's just a huge convenience thing. It is a huge convenience thing to just have all that hardware and have it just work and not take up space. And again, remember, we are now extending this to GPU and the CPU, meaning that you don't even have to have a graphics card to get video out of a motherboard. That's insane.
Okay, so
this has to be in the top 10.
Okay. Let me make a suggestion here. What about bootable? We have two things with USB in them. We have USB, and then we have a subset of USB, bootable USB OS installers.
Those aren't the same thing because USB is just a general interface. I mean, we could take USB out of there and just say, because there are network installers, there are burnable CD and DVD installers. Like the bigger point, USB is just the thing most people use, right? But like,
we always had bootable OS installers. I had to boot off of a floppy disk to install Windows 95.
I mean,
think about it.
How else could I? How about instead of install? How about like bootable OS images?
I mean, but what do I do with an OS image? That's just like I got this image file. How do I wrote the file name on the outside of my computer and then hit the reset button and it didn't boot up.
Look, it's not disqualifying just because the word USB appears in the name.
No, I agreed.
But, again, though, like just not having to keep track of your OS media.
How many discs do you have laying around there, man? Well, I do see that big shelf in the back.
Like you said, though, it's just like having to make sure you don't lose that thing. Like you were up shit creek if you realize that you lost your Windows 95 disk and you had a major problem.
I'm willing to sacrifice modular PSUs, I think, at this
No
point.
way, man. What? What is not getting? What are you trying to protect here?
I'm not trying to protect anything. There's no protection happening here. We got to get one more cut in, and we got to start ordering.
I think we should ditch not having to activate Windows.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go after headlamps.
I mean, headlamps are not PC hardware. They're not like they're a great convenience item, but they have nothing to do with the actual computer.
Okay, before you build your next computer, you have to get a headlamp.
Like, oh, absolutely. I fully agree with you. I guess
alternately, those things on late night TV, the LED lights that clip onto the sides of your glasses, I would accept them as well.
Wait, better or worse?
It's kind of equivalent. Like as long as the light's going more or less where you aim your head, that's what matters.
Maybe to state my point a different way here, there are no other items on this list that you could mine coal with. You know what I mean?
I feel like that was a pretty pointed burn, but I did just spend a lot of time playing golf with Gary, so I may be a little more sensitive than normal.
I'm just saying headlamps have massive utility outside of computers entirely. Everything else on this list is very much computer centric.
So you're saying headlamps are better than everything else on this list, and they should be number one. Agreed. 100%.
I think that they should be the number 0. They should be the winner.
Wow.
In that they are way too useful and way too broad and generalized for this list.
Wow, that is some real pandering bullshit right there.
All that said, I need you to tell me what headlamp you have later.
Yeah,
because I really should get one of those.
I have one of the black diamond ones that Wirecutter recommended. My brother-in-law gave it to me for Christmas a few years ago, and it was a wonderful gift.
It has not been 2 weeks since I was cursing at the PSU shroud in my case as I was trying to route some cables because I couldn't see shit in there. So like, I get it.
Yeah,
I just feel like it feels unfair to me. Headlamps are too useful in too many other situations.
I mean, I'm just thinking about like building PCs being in the side of a tower, and like you can never see in those far corners where you need to plug in the headers and all of that stuff.
Oh, I get it.
You know, one thing we didn't talk about is that little brick, the little plastic brick that you plug the case headers in, like the switches and the lights and all that stuff,
LEDs and stuff. I don't have that.
Okay, dude, you got to spend more than $50 on a motherboard next time.
Wait, that's a case thing, right? Not a
No, that's a motherboard thing. So the motherboard comes with a little thing that you plug in all the case wires into, and then that just slots down onto the little brick of front panel connectors.
I mean, I'm still on a Z170 board. Like I haven't bought a motherboard in 5 years because I'm still on a.
Oh, you're on 66.
I'm on a 7700, but same
thing.
Generation.
I guess that goes into
I don't
build. Well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would think that would be on the leads from the case that go straight to the switches and the lights.
No, it's not a standard. The places on the connector shift around, so you can't standardize that.
Yeah, my last motherboard was from 2015. It was like $150 motherboard.
We had that on 2015 motherboards. We had that on tested PCs. We built it tested. Like Jeff's computer has that, I think.
Sorry. Well, like again, I didn't buy the one with the racing stripes, so
I'm just your dismissive attitude as the one with the racing stripes maybe is your problem here, Brad.
Look, not all of us are haughty enough to live in the Republic of Gamers, okay?
I feel really, really attacked right now. This is what happens when we try to rank things. The whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, so it just turns into classist warfare.
Look,
some of us are just ultra durable, okay? Some of us are just getting the job done without a lot of complaints.
You take your diamond stamped bullshit and I think I can get behind maybe not having to activate Windows to install it. Although, God, that was just a
wait. Are you cutting that? You're cutting that just to keep headlamps.
I think headlamps are better than that.
Just say it.
I think headlamps are more important and make PC building better.
Okay, well, I'm fine with the Windows activation going. I think headlamps stays at number 10 because, again, it is not PC hardware or software.
Look, I think you're being hardwareist right now. But I think 10 is a fine place for headlamps.
Okay. All right. For this extremely important and relevant list, the results of which are going to change the world, we have to get this right.
Look, we have one chance at this. We can't come back and do this again. Or can we? Look, it depends on how angry people, can we digress I know we're running incredibly long and we're dangerously close to having to do a third episode of this, which we're not going to do.
I think we can order this pretty fast.
Gina and I were talking last night about I had to explain the Snyder Cut to her.
Okay.
Which is my favorite stupid thing right now.
Boy. Okay.
And explained to her why Tom and Jerry accidentally being the Snyder Cut for a handful of people for a few hours earlier this week was hilarious. And then she was like, wait, so you're saying that people complained enough on the internet that somebody at HBO gave Zack Snyder $30 or $40 million to reshoot this movie and make it 4 hours long? And I was like, yeah, that's it so far. And she was like, and then when they released it early, those same people were so paranoid that they thought that this was the studio that gave him $30 or $40 million to reshoot the movie, sabotaging said release.
Wait, is that the narrative?
Oh yeah, dude. That's
what they think?
That's what they think. If you go read the comments on any story about that on like that's posted on Twitter, the comments are fucking bonkers.
First of all, it definitely happened, right? We're positive it was not just a marketing 100%. Stunt. Okay.
I mean, it could be a marketing stunt, but it absolutely happened.
But people did watch it?
People watched it.
Also, why are they so defensive? Did the people who got to watch it say it was bad?
Of course.
Okay. That's the missing piece of information here.
But the odds of somebody who's been released the Snyder cutting for 5 years on Twitter, like accidentally getting access to this early, really low.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway.
So it's bad.
I'm not prepared to say whether it's good or bad. I'm just saying that the guy who posted the videos and clips from it and got DMCA'd immediately seemed to think it was, funnier than Tom and Jerry would have been.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I look forward to that day on the internet.
Okay.
Okay. I have a radical proposal.
Okay.
For the sake of expediency, why don't we just pick our number one right now? Because once we figure that out, I feel like the rest is open to.
And just to be clear, Headlamps is off the table.
I think it should. I think that was your consolation. Actually, though, now that I say that, I don't know.
I don't think there's an easy number one.
I don't know what the number one actually is.
Like build-friendly cases is real high on my list. Modern BIOS is pretty high on my list.
Yeah. God, yeah. The cases one is a pretty big deal. I really think getting all that hardware onto the motherboard is a gigantic deal. I mean, like, not just for our purposes, but especially for people who are on a very tight budget. The fact that you can, especially if you're not trying to play a lot of games, the fact that you can have an entire functional, fully featured computer with just a motherboard and a CPU and RAM at this point is insane.
Look, in 92 or 93, when I bought my Wang, sound was optional.
Right.
It did not come with the sound card.
Yes. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like it's like those are not like luxury features anymore, like network and sound and even now graphics.
Yeah, I went out to an electronics boutique and spent $200 on a Sound Blaster SB16 CD, I think.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, it had an IDE controller on the back of the sound card that you plugged a CD-ROM into. It was a really stupid card.
When I dragged my previous motherboard out of the closet because I needed something that I could plug my old PCI, not PCI Express, SCSI controller into.
Wow.
I didn't have to I just set it up on a cardboard box and ran with it because it's got all that stuff built in now.
Yep.
Like, again, like I just look at a modern motherboard and think like I think it's the graphics card is the one that really pushes it over for me. Like that always felt like the one thing, like, of course you have to plug a video card in. Like, of course you're always going to need one of those. Like, yes, they put sound and USB and network and all the other stuff. It is straight in the motherboard now, but you're still going to have to keep a video card around, but not even that anymore.
I mean, the integrated graphics uniformly sucks though.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that in a pinch,
it's convenient.
When you need it, it really comes in handy. And again, if people like think about this with the like insane, like completely bonkers shortage of GPUs that's going on right now. I mean, you know how bad that stuff is, right? Like,
yeah,
people are selling 1080s on eBay for almost what you would pay for a 3080 at retail. Like, it's wild. Like, think about if somebody's GPU, if somebody's video card died in the next couple weeks, like they don't have to. Their computer is not out of commission. They can still get video out of their computer.
That's true.
Even without being able, like, they literally just change the port.
So
that the monitor is plugged into, like that is huge to me.
Is this your case for number one?
Like it's up there. I don't know. Like sorry, go ahead.
I mean, think about like when you have a CPU cooler that has a backplate that you have to unscrew.
Mm-hmm.
and you have to pull the CPU out of the socket to either reseat it because you had a BIOS flash go bad or something like that. Like, think about doing that in one of today's modern build-friendly cases with a hole in the back for the CPU cooler mount.
Yeah.
Versus, say, not having one of those where you had to disassemble the entire computer, take the motherboard out, then take the cooler off the motherboard, then put it all. Like, I think the build-friendly cases maybe it's either that or USB for my number one, probably.
The reduction in number of times I've had to take a motherboard out of a case is pretty profound in the last few years.
Yeah, and then also think about how nice it is to have like hard drive trays and like cable channels and holes for the cables to run through so you can run around the back of the motherboard.
Yeah,
thumb screws.
Right.
Think about how good thumb screws are, Brad.
Yeah, no, we talked to dude. They got the episode named after them last week.
Yeah, thumb screws are pretty good.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think I am soured by the fact that the last 3 times I had to get in there, it was to deal with power supply shit, and that shroud really sucks. Is there a good power supply shroud?
No, they all are like. The problem with the power supply shroud is that they're there to look nice.
That's what I was going to say. Like, there is no utility there, right? Like, making it harder to get to your power supply connections. I don't see other than the appearance stuff.
I mean, you could argue that it keeps the snarl of extra power cables out of the way of the rest of the PC and maybe improves airflow.
Yes.
But since they almost all, I mean, the downside of power supply shrouds is if you don't install your power supply right, you can really mess your stuff up because like if the fan intake on the power supply is on the shroud side instead of facing the bottom of the case, you can do real. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I would assume you can do real damage.
Yeah. I wish the shroud in my case was removable. I wish if they were all removable, I'd be totally fine with it.
Well, everything's removable if you have the right tools.
This one's, I think this one's literally, no, it's like literally part of the frame.
Oh,
if I'm not mistaken, I did not see any separation between the shroud and the rest of the frame. I could be wrong.
If it's just riveted, it's really easy to drill out the rivets.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, like that aside, like you're right. Most of the advancements in case design have been pretty good.
Wait, do you have a case with a window?
No, hell no.
Why the fuck does it have a shroud then?
Well, it is a model that has a window option.
Oh,
it is a model that you can get with or without window.
Okay, so let's think about USB for a second here. The USB benefit in terms of building in like initial operation of your computer is that it's just supported across the board on everything.
Right.
It's one connector and one cable, kind of, right? A small number of potential cables for all of your external peripherals. That's good. Provides power, which is nice, even a lot of power in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was the big advocate at Maximum PC when did the best technologies of all time of making USB number one. I don't think it's number one here.
I agree. I could see it like maybe right where it is at number 3.
With consolidation and build-friendly cases above?
Yes.
I could hang with build-friendly cases at 1.
Is that where we're going? Yeah,
consolidation at 2 and USB at 3.
Oh, you're probably right. I don't know.
I don't. So here's my argument against consolidation. When I bought a laptop, this is a bad example because it's a laptop, but imagine it was a motherboard. Actually, I bought a motherboard. I did buy a motherboard and I got it. And it came, instead of with a good Intel Wi-Fi chipset, it came with a really, really shitty Bigfoot Wi-Fi chipset. And like that, I mean, it ended up being an M2 card. So I was able to take it out and replace it with a $30 good Wi-Fi chipset. But if that had been soldered on the board, I would have just had to turn it off and then burn a PCI slot on a better device.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And, you get into situations where like, oh, those USB ports on the back are the Intel controller that's part of the chipset. And then those other ones are some VIA chip that's not as good.
Yeah.
Like, don't use those for this because they're not compatible or
the VR problem.
Right. Yes.
Well, and then also like sound on the motherboard, kind of a disaster unless they do a good job. This is another one of those places that the expensive motherboards are often better is they'll put the sound stuff on a riser. So it's out of the plane. It doesn't get noise interference from all the other signals.
Yeah,
on the chipset.
I only use the onboard sound for my external speakers to listen to music on, basically. Like anything serious is the
standalone
headphone amp.
Yeah.
So you're not wrong there.
Okay, I like build friendly cases. I mean, build friendly cases is a slam dunk, I think, right? Like,
I'm fine with that. Yes.
You sound sad, Brad.
No, I get it. I don't know. I get more excited about things that are electronic in nature rather than mechanical, but that's okay.
Yeah, but think about how less bloody your fingers are now.
Yeah. Okay. When you put it that way, yes, I'm fine with it. Let's see.
So now we have having more than one computer, being able to plug your PC into your TV, aka HDMI, modular PSUs, serial ATA, SATA, modern BIOS, bootable OS images, and then the real number one in my heart, headlamps.
That's right. But the functional number 10, headlamps.
I'm not convinced of that yet, but we'll get there.
All right.
Okay. Modular PSUs, I think maybe is higher.
Okay. It's at number 6 right now. I can see it.
It's another mechanical thing, though.
I can see it. Well, but anything that makes it easier to work in the case. Not having all those gangly, like those extra Molexes just hanging around in your case that you're not using is pretty great.
We had one of the best doctor letters we ever got at Maximum PC was somebody who had chopped off they had the extra cables and they just put a pair of wire snips and cut them off at the stumps.
Yikes.
Didn't end well.
That's
a bad idea.
That sounds bad.
They're lucky they didn't burn their house down.
I could see that at like a number 4 or number 5.
I think it's higher than 6, probably.
Yeah. How about a number 4? Let's try that. I feel like being able to plug your PC and your TV via HDMI is great, but it's so situational. Like, unless you're playing games on your TV, which I mean, granted, that is another great use of that feature, but like, you're not going to, for the most part, use your TV as your everyday display for your PC. It's more of a troubleshooting thing of just like, oh, I need a screen. It's great that this computer will plug into both my TV and this monitor.
Where do you build your computers, Brad? Do you do it on the living room floor?
Gosh, it's been so long. I think I did the last one in the living room.
Oh, no, you did the last one at work, didn't you?
No, I've never built a personal machine at work, just a bunch of work machines.
Okay. I think... I mean, look, when I build a PC at home, I do set up on the living room floor, which has a wool carpet, which isn't great. Obviously, it's fine though.
Yeah.
And then when I'm ready to boot it up, I plug it into that front panel HDMI plug and let her rip.
On the TV?
On the TV.
What?
Well, because if I have to take it all back apart again, I want to do it in the living room. I don't have to carry it in the office and plug it in, crawl around under the desk.
Man, that's so unceremonious.
Well, I mean, what do you do? Like... Make a fancy tea and have a little no crust sandwich with some cream cheese.
Light some candles.
Yeah.
Burn some incense. No.
Okay.
It can stay at number 6 for now. I don't know.
I think modern BIOS needs to be higher.
Or
maybe bootable OS images. Both of those are real good and they're not 8 and 9, I don't think.
No, I agree with you. I do agree with you. So serial ATA lower?
Yeah, why not?
All right. We've reached that point in the list making, huh?
Can I make a novel suggestion?
Sure.
Why don't we just make everything number 1 and call it a day?
Wow. That's bold. I don't think Google Docs supports that. The auto numbering does not.
I've done a lot of Giant Bomb Game of the Year lists, and this has been my strategy every time. No one's complained yet, except for Marino, but he'll be fine.
This is the it's an honor to be nominated strategy.
No, I mean, these are all really useful things.
No,
and I feel like the only way to get headlamps its due is to get some real outside the box thinking.
I'm fine with that. It's
No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to. That's a real cop out after 2 episodes of nonsense.
All right.
Modern BIOS. Okay, so we got build friendly cases 1, consolidation of external cards onto the motherboard 2, USB, modular PSUs at 4, having more than one computer at 5. That one seems like it might be too high.
Yeah, I mean this is just how these got ordered. It's not necessarily like that we were intending to put that at number 5.
Yeah, no, I know.
How about, I don't know, let's drop it down to like an 8 or a 9 or something.
I feel like, yeah. Like being able to look stuff up is better. I don't know. What are you thinking? I've been talking a lot. You've been making a lot of those noises.
I don't know. I'm kind of ambivalent about some of it. I think the bootable OS image thing is a huge deal.
You think it's better than having backup on the BIOS, or?
It's something that I've used infinitely more. I'll say that. I've never needed the backup on the BIOS or any of those other like extra features. Like I still use a BIOS like I did 20 years ago, pretty much.
Yeah, same.
Like, granted, like you said, like if there's power loss in the middle of a flash or something, you would be damn glad you had it. But
like the times that's mattered most is like when I had overclocking go bad or something like that, right? And I don't participate in that anymore, really.
Right, same. But like I downloaded like 3 different Linux ISOs over the last couple of weeks and just slapped them into VMs, you know, like the general portability of the modern operating system and how easy it is to get a hold of and install. I feel like is such a enormous convenience factor. Like, you know, every time I built a computer at home or at work or whatever, like I go to, you know, I download the media creation tool and 15 minutes later I have a bootable Windows installer with all the latest shit in it, you know, like the latest drivers, the latest, you know,
that's pretty good.
What is the modern equivalent of the service pack?
Well, hold on. So then is this the Windows media creation tool?
Well, it's all the same thing, right? Like that thing is just preparing a USB installer for you, but like there are other ways to accomplish that.
I mean, not with all the updates and stuff rolled in though. That's the whole thing. It downloads all the updates and then bundles them up. Like you used to do that with a TechNet tool.
Well, no, I don't mean all updates. I take that back. I believe they refresh their image like every 6 months, probably every time they put one of the semi-annual updates out.
Yeah, but the update tool pulls when I did an update on my daughter's machine, I did a clean install on my daughter's machine the other day, and it didn't have anything to download. It was like 20H2.
It definitely has like all the up to the minute updates. Really,
it seemed like it. I didn't when I hit Windows Update. It was like, here's some drivers.
Yeah. Well, still, I mean, I don't know what is the argument here though.
I think it's good. I think it should be higher.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you. I'm just, you know, I would put that at like a number 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think I might move that and having more than one computer up both.
Okay.
I know we just moved that down, but I feel like those are a nice match set because like when you think about things that you use while you're building a new computer, like the bootable OS image every single time, looking something up, always important.
I'm just going to expand that out to look things up on.
Yeah. Or maybe just, reference. Yeah, there we go. Some weird categories here. I like it though.
That's ranking.
I'm kind of okay with this list the way it looks right now.
Yeah, I mostly am too. I got this nagging feeling that Serial ATA is too low.
Serial ATA is dead now, though.
They're not. Well, that's fine though. I mean, you're not wrong. Well, it's not dead.
Okay, so
it's going to be, you know, like bulk spinning disks are going to be around for a while, and I don't think there's going to be a successor standard. Is there? Probably not.
I don't know. I think Serial ATA is the final standard for that kind of external storage.
Where do we go with that stuff? Actually, like
I mean, you don't need. It's not going to get faster. Like it doesn't need to get faster because there's no faster spinning disks.
Let me clarify what I'm asking. Like, there's only so much real estate on a motherboard for M.2 slots. Like you're not, you know, like most modern PCs, you could hook 6 or 8 drives up over SATA. Like you're never going to have that many M.2 slots. Like
you can get an M2 riser card that goes into a PCI Express slot.
Is that where we're going to end up? For people who need like 4 to 6 drives, they're just going to have to provide for it themselves.
Yep.
Okay.
Or you'll use like a Thunderbolt or USB-C external. So you think PCI Express connection.
You think the days of mounting a ton of drives inside your case are behind us or about to be?
Look, this is going to shock you. Most people don't do that. Most people 3 drives is the absolute limit.
Sure.
And that's probably correct. Like they're right to be that way.
Yeah, you're right.
I once bought a laptop with 2 hard drives. That was a bad laptop.
That probably wouldn't last very long.
Gaming laptop. I think.
Okay, I guess SATA could stay at 8. Yes.
I think I'm just looking at the list and I'm thinking, like, why is USB so high? Just because it's convenient and it's one plug?
I thought you wanted it there.
I don't really have strong feelings. We kind of talked about it, but we didn't never have a conversation about it.
USB is also is both amazingly useful and convenient, and also a complete nightmare. Like it is like, or maybe to put it another way, like it is fantastic that we have USB, and it can also be a million times better.
Yeah.
Like
I think that's fair.
From day one when they chose not to make it reversible, it's just been downhill from there.
Yeah, it's a weird situation because like PCI Express is about the same age. It's a little bit younger than USB, but PCI Express, there's 4 slots.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 2 external standards.
Yeah.
That seems like it's much better. We should just do everything on PCI Express.
Yeah, maybe. Not enough lanes. Not enough lanes.
Not enough lanes. Yeah.
USB is critical, but also critically flawed.
Yeah, that's kind of my knock against SATA too, right? Like the idea is good, but the actual connector is bad.
I don't think the implementation of SATA is anywhere near as bad as that of USB. Well, not even close.
Oh, dude, the cables used to, before they put the little metal hooky thing on, the cables would fall off.
It's not. I mean, I don't know, man. Think about the USB superposition. Just think about it.
Oh no, I mean that is
Think about how annoying that one thing has been.
Do you
over the years?
One of the first CESs I went to with test after we started Tested, we met the USB implementation board people at No, it was at like one of the late night. So they don't do this at E3 really, but at CES they would have these late night. They'd take over a couple of big, huge hotel ballrooms in Vegas, and they'd sell like 15 by 15 foot booths or 10 by 10 booths to a bunch of people who didn't want to pay money for a real CES booth. And it was always called something lame like Showstoppers. We were at one of those, and the USB implementation people were in the back corner of one of these kind of sad rooms full of like it was like Kensha, right?
Oh, okay.
It's like offsite Kensha.
Sure. Okay. Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah. And the USB implementation forum people were back there, and they were showing off this new connector called USB-C. They didn't have space on the floor. Intel had it there too, but Norm and I saw that, and we were the only people the entire night that got excited about it, the guy said. And I was like, this fixes the USB superposition. Like, that's exactly what we've been saying.
Wow.
So
too bad they introduced like 5 other very annoying problems with USB-C.
Look, it's not, it is their fault. I don't think it's their fault that the cables that do the PCI that are as fast as PCI Express lanes are expensive to produce, and thus nobody made them.
It's more the lack of differentiation. Like, it's just not knowing what you have. Like, it's entirely possible to just have a bunch of USB-C cables and have no idea what they're capable of.
Yeah, and most of them are going to be like USB 2 cables that are just look like with USB-C ends.
I didn't know that was even possible until you just said it.
Yeah.
I assumed that USB 3 was the minimum that a USB-C cable could be.
Nope. That's the problem with almost all of your USB-C cables. Is that they're USB 2 cables because they're just for power. I just for some reason I assumed that 3 was the minimum. And like some of them can carry video and some cannot. That's USB 2 versus USB 3 again.
Like, they all look the the
This is the problem with like the ones that come with your Switch. Those are USB 2 cables that have USB-C ends on them.
In some ways, the old USB is better than USB-C.
Well, and also there's the USB 3 problem of only 128 endpoints, which we've talked about at length, and remains stupid.
At least that blue connector spoke pretty loudly.
I do like the blue connector
in a way that USB-C cables do not.
Did you ever have a red one?
No, I've got a red. What is that? 3.1?
I don't know.
I think it's 3. I think it's. I've got a red port on my motherboard. I believe that's a 3.1 port.
It might be 3.1. Okay. Anyway, I think USB stays up, or do you think it goes down?
I think it could drop down a little bit. Maybe to like a number 7.
I think it's better than Serial ATA.
Really? Do you think it's better than being able to use your TV as a PC display?
As a monitor in a pinch?
I think probably on the whole.
On the overall, like, look, if USB bootable OS images are important, without USB, we wouldn't have them.
Well, again, remember, I have removed USB from.
I know. I think that might have been a mistake, though.
Bootable OS images.
Okay.
Dude, I downloaded a Debian network installer the other day. You can install from anything now.
It is cool. It is cool on the motherboards that support it, being able to download an image from the repo and install off of that from the network.
Totally.
I don't think I've ever done that, but like
downloadable / bootable OS images.
Yeah, okay.
Like I think the ease of getting and installing operating systems these days is like light years beyond where it used to be.
I think modern BIOSes should go above SATA.
Okay, sure. All right.
That was a hard fight. I think headlamps should go above everything else on the list.
I think we've already covered that territory. I don't know. I'm fine with this list.
Look, fine is the best you can hope for in a ranking situation,
right.
I think.
Yes.
Like apathetic resignation is what is the best case scenario.
No one leaves happy, but everyone leaves relieved. It's basically that's what you're shooting for.
I feel like not doing this, like I've had this room closed up because I've been in here streaming for a little while, so it's got like the right carbon dioxide level in here, so I'm a little drowsy and grumpy.
Sure.
But I feel like having the door closed in a small conference room is the only way to do this in the real world.
Now try putting like, say, 5 to 7 other people in that room.
That's too many people, Brad.
Dude, I mean, I've talked about it before. Go back to GameSpot 15 years ago. It was more like 20 to 30 people.
Once upon a time, when Jeff was like, "Oh, we're getting ready to do Game of the Year," I jokingly was like, "You guys should bring guests in each day." And he just looked at me like I'd suggested, pulling fingernails or teeth or some keratin attached to his body that he was unhappy to lose.
All right.
Do we feel like this is the list?
I think this is fine.
Okay, I think should do the honors.
All right. Here's what we've ended up with. Build-friendly cases are the best advancement in the building of PCs in the last 25 plus years.
Seems a little obvious when you put it that way.
Working with your hands, got to plug stuff in.
Being able to run cables, hide all the stuff you don't want to see. This is a good thing.
Yes.
And cases don't get enough love. Cases are cool, man.
Yeah, I agree. Feats of engineering.
Especially since you made me cut lights. I think lights are cool. My computer has lights, and I don't even have a glass door.
You can add lights on your own time. Number 2, the consolidation of a bunch of hardware onto the motherboard, such as Ethernet, Wi-Fi, sound, and graphics. Number 3, modular power supplies. Number 4, downloadable and bootable operating system images.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, having extra computers around, where computer could mean anything from laptop to phone to you name it, your fridge.
What about your web TV?
Your web TV, yeah.
Yeah. Xbox has a browser, right?
Yeah, that's right. Use your Xbox to look up your motherboard manual.
Yeah. Does it have a PDF viewer?
I was going to say, I don't know if that browser opens PDFs, but you know what I mean. having other internet connected reference points has been pretty handy. Number 6, a universal serial bus. Number 7, being able to plug your TV into your, being able to plug your PC into your TV over HDMI. And effectively use a TV as a monitor. Number 8, the modern BIOS with support for input devices and network and backing up the firmware and all that stuff. Number 9,
mouse input.
Yeah, it's again, I don't really use it, but I guess it's cool.
Yeah,
it's there.
Okay.
Number 9, serial ATA. We didn't even talk about M.2 as a potential for this list, but
I don't think it's a good technology.
Yeah, I mean, it's neat that it exists, but it's weird. It's weird. Couldn't they have gone with something a little bit more cartridge-like that didn't require you to deal with these weird standoff screws and mounting nuts and match up connectors and also not know if you're installing SATA or NVMe? Let's not get into it.
Well, that part's fine. The problem is the SATA NVMe, the PCI Express / SATA confusion early on was a huge mistake. They should have just done different connectors for that.
That's for sure. All right. Well, anyway, M.2 did not make it onto this list.
M.2.
Serial ATA did at number 9. And number 10, headlamps.
We did get lighting on the list after all, it turns out.
That's right. I'm going to have to buy a headlamp.
You got to buy a headlamp. I'll send you a link.
I should buy a headlamp. Everybody should buy a headlamp.
You can let us know how you feel about this list of technologies that have improved building PCs.
Dude, I'm sitting here looking at our recording right now. It is impossible to rank expediently.
I mean,
you just can't do it.
We had some digressions.
You just can't do it.
I felt like we were doing pretty well, and then I looked up and it was 53 minutes about 30 minutes ago.
You can't form a list on time. You just can't do it.
No. You can't hurry art, Brad.
Yes.
You can't hurry art. Also, we'd like to announce that an NFT of this episode will be available. No, look, man. Look, there's an opportunity out there.
Should we talk about that next week?
No, we can't do it next week, but we got to get a guest because it's complicated.
Okay. you're probably right.
But I've been talking to people about potential guests for this. So we should.
Interesting.
I think we should do a multi-part on first crypto, like, Bitcoin and Ethereum and all that stuff, and how it works, and the difference between proof of stake and proof of work and all the different things that go into that.
I was literally Googling the phrases proof of stake and proof of work the other day because I feel like I need to understand this stuff.
And then the next week, I have a guest for the next week who can talk to us about different applications, who builds like databases on blockchains, because if you do it with the proof of state instead of proof of work, then it's just an inexpensive way to make sure that everybody's data stays in sync. The problem comes when you tie it to massive amounts of math to buy places. Anyway, it's complicated, and I don't want to mess it up and get yelled at. So let's find a guest and do that. But yeah, I want to hear what you think about this. Send us emails to techpod@content.town, or you can post them on the Discord in this week's episode channel. And if you want to find out how to get into that Discord, you can do that by going to patreon.com/techpod.
That's right.
Where for $2 a month, you can get access to the fabulous TechPod Patreon. You might want to, if you're on the fence, you might want to get in there soon, because we're probably going to up the prices at some point in the not too distant future. I know. Dun, dun, dun. It won't affect anybody who's already in. Your Patreon on Patreon, when you sign up for a price, the creators can't change that price.
That's right.
They can only ask you to upgrade to a different tier. They can't force you to pay more. So
that's right.
If you're already in, you're good. But if you're thinking about it, now's the time. You get access to
every day forevermore. You can laugh about how you're getting one over on us.
Yeah, you really hosed us. In addition to the fabulous TechPod Discord, where you can talk about everything from tabletop gaming to Valheim to emulating Misters. These are all games things. That's what I'm looking at right now. But we have
I could sit here and tell you about the things I've gotten help with on there in the last week or two.
Or what do you like chat? Like, I've just enjoyed chatting about weird stuff.
For sure. Yeah. But it's the range of knowledge on there is really the thing that always blows me away. Like,
truly astounding.
Everything from trying to continuity test DisplayPort cable to passing environment variables to another user in a bash script to I'm trying to think what
routing
else.
Cables to avoid audio noise.
Trying to track down the creaky sound coming from these rollerblade wheels that I just can't diagnose.
No.
The company is sending me another set of wheels. Like, that's probably fine. Can you hear it?
Oh yeah, that's a bad sound.
Did you hear it? Did you hear it?
Don't do that.
Did that come through?
That's a sound that's bad.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the sound of rollerblade wheels crying.
Yes. I'm getting another set of wheels. My fear is that what if it's not the wheels? What if it's the chair?
I mean, I'd say that's a real concern given the geriatric nature of that chair.
It's just, the original wheels did not do anything like that. And furthermore, it's very hard to troubleshoot when you have to be sitting in the chair to produce the sound in the first place. So
if you flip it over upside down, you can't force it to happen?
No. It's very much my weight being on it, rolling it around is what's caused. Like, if I get up out of the chair and just push the chair around with my hands, there's no sound.
What if you kneel in it?
Well, that still isn't so. Then I'm higher. My head is even more elevated than when I'm sitting in it.
Well, I'm just curious. What happens?
The objective, probably nothing. I don't know. The objective is that I need to be down on my knees, like with my ears right up next to the wheels. Can you still hear it? Yeah.
Do you think it's all of the wheels, or do you think it's just one bad actor?
It sounds like, it's tough to say. That's the other thing is the chair imbalanced and I'm just the weight is being distributed.
Yeah.
Like,
what if one of them's not all the way chonked in there?
They're definitely all in.
You should get your partner to lay on the ground while you sit in the chair and wiggle around so she can figure out which wheel it is.
That's next on the list. Also, I was looking at tubes of apparently dangerous industrial lubricant today.
I mean, look, those cows aren't going to grow extra legs by themselves. So
yes, you're right.
But yeah, so you can go to patreon.com/techpod, get access to the Discord. We do a patron exclusive episode every month.
Yeah.
Last month
we argued about our NASs for the most part.
Oh, right. We talked about, NAS, future NAS paths.
Yes. But previous months we've had luminaries from such, August entities as NASA on that episode.
Yeah, I think we're going to do another patron spotlight this month. So if you have somebody you'd like to nominate, not yourself, but it's somebody else, maybe post that in this week's episode as well.
Yeah.
And we appreciate all of our supporters, but we especially appreciate my page is reloading because I tabbed to too many windows.
That'll happen.
Firefox unloads unused tabs.
You spend over 90 minutes ranking, that'll happen.
Yep. We especially appreciate our executive producer tier patrons, including Cedric Kotzenmacher, The Bunny Fiend, Jacob Chappell, David Allen, and James Kamek. Thank you all so much for supporting the show.
Yes,
Thanks everybody who supports the Tech Pod. We really do appreciate it, folks. And I guess that'll do it for us this week, Brad.
Yeah.
Anything to promote? I feel like we should promote stuff at the end. I guess we already promoted stuff.
Yeah. Listen to this podcast. That's what I'm here to promote.
Yeah, there you go.
Have you heard of the technology podcast we do? You should give it a try.
Dude, I've been playing Eco on this on the stream that this server that a PUBG streamer set up.
Oh boy.
And it's like it's a game about supply chains.
Oh no.
And you have to set up governments and do currency and all this stuff.
Oh no.
It makes you look at the world around you a little bit differently.
Yeah. I've looked into that game a little bit. It sounds like a lot.
It is. Look, like I said, it's probably the kind of thing I'll play once and never touch again.
Sure.
I'm okay with that. It's like an experience. It's like going to an escape room that lasts for 30 days. Anyway, I guess we'll see you all next week. Bye, everybody.